Hi again. Hey, we're going to take a minute here to go a little bit more in depth into some of these parts that you'll commonly see on our units. So this here would be a slider clamp, and this holds the frame to the turntable or the fifth wheel plate. And underneath this, hooked to the top half, is what we call a slider block. Now, believe it or not, over time, this polyurethane slider block can actually wear a groove in the top side of this slider clamp, as well as in the fifth wheel plate. That's why it's important to go ahead and pull this apart sometimes, every year or two actually, and just make sure that we're getting, for one, the hole's not elongated on this, and this guy's not sloppy on the spud, and two, how bad our groove is or isn't in the top of this and in the fifth wheel plate. It's good to manually grease the bottom of this, top and bottom of this. It's really going to prolong the life of it. We have basically three different styles of slider blocks. We're going to have a small hole, which is 1 1/16". The one that's under here, which is 1 3/8" hole. And then we have our large block, which is used on the trunnion. So, check them all for wear. There's either going to be 6 or 4 per cat. Another item is when we talk about the carriers and the journal and journal liners and how much movement you have, when you start getting excessive movement in there, is what's happened is these guys here get out around, and these go in your carrier and then slide over the differential. And we grease these real good when we build the cat, but only using the grease zerks that are on the carrier, you never get grease between here and the journal again. And that's why when they come in for a full service, we do a complete tear down of these, drive these out of the journal, out of the carrier, inspect them. If they're good, then we will get a good fresh coat of grease on the inside and outside and reinstall it. And this goes a long ways for just keeping these cats in good shape, keeping the steering tight, keeping them tracking straight, and things of that nature. Some of the bigger units, rather than having a tie rod end on them, we've went over to this Heim Joint, which is basically a very, very hardy component. But going back to the tie rod end, underneath this plastic cover you have a boot. You want to keep it full of grease, make sure you don't have any tears in that, and the grease is not escaping. And again, we like to keep this nut that holds this either to the swing or the fifth wheel plate torqued down to about 155 pounds. If you need to go farther to get your Carter keyhole to line up, we always go a little bit tighter on that. The Heim Joint, again, it's basically run these so tight that to move this ball in here, you got to put a bull's prick in there and really use some force to get it to go. We like that nice and tight. To inspect these on your cat, you can simply grab your tie rod and make sure it's taking some good amount of resistance to turn that. If you find that this is turning real easy, then you want to kind of check it, make sure that there's no up and down play inside this. Kind of show you the components that are in this are basically inside that housing. You're going to have a bottom cup, your ball, a top cup, and then on the new ones they have a little spring retainer that goes on there, and then you put your spanner nut back on top, greasing everything of course before you put it together. Run your spanner nut on there until you get that so tight that it's pretty difficult to move. Then we'll drill a hole in the side of the housing, ping that, and then put our set screw in there, and that'll keep this from backing off. Those are going to be so tight that they probably won't take grease after they're assembled until you've ran them for a period of time, and then they'll loosen up and start taking grease. As we spoke about some of the components that are metal on metal, this would be our steering clevis that I was referring to on the end of the steering cylinder that goes through the swing arm. And again, metal on metal, hardened pin. As you can imagine this going back and forth, right now this is nice and tight, but over time this will get elongated and can cause you to have a little bit of a tracking issue as you're going down the trail. Again, on the butt end of that, it's a hardened pin, and same thing. You're basically not going to wear your cylinder out. You're probably not going to wear the mount out that's welded to the frame, but this pin here, which is a nice and easy to replace, will tend to get some grooves in it. Another thing to kind of point out is if you have a cat that does not have raised breather vents where they're running into a recovery bottle inside the hood, and you only have a little breather vent like this on the differential, when we fill up here at the factory, we're at about 1,300 feet above sea level. So as these cats go out and you take them up in elevation, they get hot, this fluid is going to expand and go out the breather vent, and once that fluid leaves, it doesn't come back in. So it's kind of important to, you know, check your differentials quite often and keep them topped off with fluid. Thank you for viewing, and I'd encourage you to visit our website and like us on Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.